and then cast that bottle adrift here on the Thames River in London, England. What would be the odds it would travel halfway around the world and reach San Francisco, California? Improbable? Yes. Impossible? No. We're going to trace the remarkable sea voyage of a bottle like this one that contained a most unusual message. A piece of paper that promised great wealth and good fortune to the person who found it. That voyage and its controversial aftermath is the first stop on our journey into the strange, the bizarre, and the unexpected.
See intimate close-ups of a vampire bat on the prowl for a midnight meal. Pierced by needles, they shed no blood. The unbelievable but true rituals of Singapore. A blind marathon runner takes a treacherous trail in his stride. A lizard that actually walks on water. A perilous descent down a mountainside as men ride sacred logs in Japan. Round and round on the biggest, tallest, heaviest carousel in the world. And a remarkable man who has found peace and acceptance in his hometown. We'll examine those subjects a man named Robert L. Ripley dared us to.
Believe it or not.
Daisy Singer Alexander, a childless widow, was heiress to one of the larger slices of the Singer sewing machine fortune. Her assets amounted to some $12 million worth of Singer stock and dividends. But, to the dismay of her attorneys and friends, Daisy, who had long claimed her will would be an apple pie order, died in 1939, apparently without making good her claim. No will could be found. That touched off one of the most bizarre hunts ever recorded for a missing will.
There are those who are convinced that the facts in the case were these. That a search of Daisy's London mansion would reveal that she had hidden the will. All her attorneys would have to do was find it. In this dramatic recreation, bizarre devices like the mine detector were pressed into the hunt, but to no avail. In desperation, the attorneys brought in a clairvoyant who followed strange vibrations, as he called them, to virtually every dark corner of the house. But even he couldn't find the will. In a final effort, the attorneys then tracked down Daisy's pet bird, hoping it might reveal some clues. Unfortunately, it had been stuffed by its new owner, its silver tongue stilled forever. What no one knew, however, was that Daisy Singer, 2 years before she died, had made other plans. She had put her last will and testament in a bottle, and for some unknown reason, tossed it in the River Thames. Daisy may have launched one of the most astounding sea voyages ever recorded. An expert on ocean currents would later testify that the bottle probably drifted up the North Sea, past naval skirmishes during World War II, bobbed eastward in the icy waters above Scandinavia and Russia to the Bering Straits, and emerged into the Pacific. With some help undoubtedly from the Japanese current, it could have wandered down the west coast to a beach near San Francisco, where a bottle finally came ashore. "12,000 miles and more than a decade later, an unemployed restaurant worker named Jack Worm discovered a bottle on the beach. The fantasies that inspired Daisy Singer to cast it adrift would not compare to the dreams it would inspire in the man who found it. For inside was a note promising one half of Daisy's huge fortune to her attorney, with the other half going to the person who recovered the bottle. At first, Worm thought the document was a joke and was ready to dismiss it as the work of a crank. But eventually he contacted Daisy's attorney in London, and reporters were soon onto the story. Newspapers in the 1950s helped spark Worm's quest for his half of Daisy Singer's estate, but the legal obstacles would prove formidable.
Worm was advised to press suit in an American probate court for his share of the money. $6 million in cash outright and $80,000 in Singer dividends to be paid yearly. But apparently, Worm never did. Perhaps he was discouraged by a British ruling that declared, for a will to be valid, it must be witnessed by two parties.
Today, Jack Worm lives in a nursing home in San Mateo, California. But now, nearing 90, he no longer recalls the dreams and hopes he once found in a bottle.
An eccentric London heiress, a San Francisco restaurant worker, united by a bottle that survived a long and improbable voyage halfway around the world. Believe it or not.
You must all return to cryogenic sleep.
They won't.
Civilized or savage, all men have one thing in common: a belief in something, somewhere out there, infinitely more powerful than we are. Perhaps we call it by different names, but it is there for all of us. Since the beginning of time, we have conceived ritual icons, totems, to appease the gods, to celebrate our good fortune or moan our defeats. In others, we call this superstition. In ourselves, we call it by other names. In Bali, ancient rituals find expression in the magical phrases of rhythmic chants. The chant is poetry, an epic drama recited by the combined voices of farmers, herdsmen, potters, masons, the faithful who share in this sacred and unusual ceremony. A symbolic recreation depicts the abduction of a queen by Ravana, the evil demon king of Ceylon. She is called Sita, the wife of the divine king Rama. Despite the intervention of the chanters, she becomes a captive, the hostage of Ravana and the powers of darkness. To rescue her from Ravana, another mythic figure is called into being. He is Hanuman, general of the monkeys. The chorus joins him to attack the evil Ravana, and the demon is defeated. Rescued by exorcism, the queen is saved by the sacred rhythms of an ancient rite. For connoisseurs of mud and the fine art of throwing it, the French town of Cournonterral rates 4 stars for quality and method of application. To local residents, mud throwing is an honored tradition requiring special costumes to designate the bad guys from the good guys. Dressed in white to symbolize the enemy in an ancient battle, the invaders prepare to attack. With weapons at ready, the defenders wait. The town has been closed for the day. Anyone on the street is considered fair game, including those who just come to watch. Celebrated each year on Ash Wednesday, this classic mud fight commemorates an actual battle which took place in 1346, over 500 years ago. The mud is a mixture of wine dregs and earth and hurts nothing but the combatant's pride. Prisoners taken in battle get special treatment at the hands of their captors, and some seem to enjoy it. As day ends, so does the battle, and to the victors, as well as the victims, go the spoils. In Singapore, a pantheon of Hindu gods gazes over the teeming streets as crowds gather to celebrate one of the most unusual rituals of penance in the world. The ceremony involves a bizarre device of strange dimensions called a kavadi. It is a wire-like structure which the penitents will carry. It weighs almost 60 pounds. The kavadi will be attached to their bodies by sharp, needle-like spears. Blessed by the ritual smoke of incense and encouraged by the words of an ancient prayer, they will endure the wearing of the kavadi as an act of atonement, or in gratitude for blessings already received. They submit themselves not as priests, but as the otherwise ordinary workmen and shopkeepers that they are. Except as spectators, few Hindus participate in such bizarre rituals as this. Friends and relatives, however, do accompany the penitents to serve as guards. They help to keep them from being jostled by the crowd during their long walk through the streets of Singapore. Their destination is the Temple of Mariman, where their journey ends in a ceremonial dance, a public demonstration of their faith and devotion. Incredibly, the needles of the kavadi leave no lasting wounds. A simple ash ointment is sufficient for healing, and the penitents shed no blood. Thus are the gods glorified or appeased in Singapore. Believe it or not. Once every 6 years, the Shinto shrine of Sue in the Japanese province of Nagano undergoes a ritual restoration. Sacred trees stand at each of the 4 corners of the shrine. The weathered pillars are replaced in a ceremony that reaches back into the dim past and begins here, where priests and worshippers gather to bless the selected trees. Hauled down the mountain by hand, Each of the logs is about 50 feet long and weighs almost 11 tons. As many as 2,000 men share the honor of moving the consecrated logs. The route is almost 5 miles long. Along the way, the procession grows as villages join in the festival. Soon, as a virtual army of the devout approaches its destination, the atmosphere becomes charged with a new excitement. The sacred pillars are about to become the instrument of a test of courage. This precipitous slope provides the challenge. From bottom to top, it's about 100 yards. Each log is brought to the edge, and the men of Sua will attempt to ride them down to the shrine. Accidents are expected and accepted. Mishaps, however, are laid not to the speed or the unpredictable behavior of the 11-ton log, but on the rider's lack of faith. The injured receive little sympathy from the crowd. Honored riders sit astride the sacred trees, and they are raised at their final destinations, the shrines of Sua. The funeral procession of Chinese General Yi Chun stretched out for 2,300 miles, believe it or not.
The uniform said purple.
There was a time when you had to go a long way to see an African elephant. Now they're as familiar as the flamingos at California's San Diego Zoo. Yet such animals retain their power to fascinate. Curiosity about other animal species is probably the reason why zoos are so popular. And some of the animals to us are quite unique. For instance, this is an emu. It's a short name for a big bird that can't fly. But it makes up for that by being able to run at almost 30 miles an hour. When it was first discovered in Australia, it created quite a stir. But now it's so accepted that it shares a place of honor with the kangaroo on Australia's coat of arms. As unusual as the emu is, it's rather ordinary when you consider the truly bizarre creatures of the animal world. But to see them, you have to travel to the most remote corners of the earth. Entwined in courtship ritual, the swan-like grebe is at home on the lakes of North America. Their ability to walk on water, as it were, is common among some birds, but not among reptiles, except for this one. A native of Central America, this lizard can run across water for up to 10 yards. Then it can rise and run again. Its skill has resulted in its official name, the Jesus Christ lizard. No disrespect intended. Its abilities are truly amazing because there is no webbing between its toes. The instinct for survival has resulted in the development of ingenious techniques. The quick can outmaneuver their meals, but for the less energetic, nature has devised some bizarre mutations. This is an alligator turtle. It has an imitation worm growing from its tongue. The purpose? To attract an unsuspecting fish. Lurking in apparently tranquil water, the archerfish relies on a unique skill for its survival. It lives on surface insects and must shoot a jet of water into the air to capture its prey. With deceptive ease, the archerfish must calculate the angle of fire through the distortion of the water. It's a remarkable exhibition of marksmanship. Hidden away in the treetops of distant jungles, there are creatures that have developed their own marvelous grace. Monkeys are uniquely adapted to their lofty environment. There are other mysterious creatures, however, who also claim the high territory, but in a different way. The giant flying squirrel is perhaps the best known. It has no wings, but it can extend its skin to transform itself into a kite-like shape, which supports it during its flight. This is not a flying squirrel. It's a kaluga, a living mystery for naturalists. Displayed where it was found here in Borneo, little is known about this baffling creature, except that it moves sluggishly on the ground, but finds grace in the air. Few reptiles are members of the flying fraternity. This apparently ordinary lizard, however, can claim that distinction. To explain that ability, naturalists demonstrate how a sack of skin at its side spreads out to create something akin to wings. To become airborne, the lizard simply leaps from its perch. This is not the only reptile that flies, nor the most unusual. That honor goes to the legendary flying snake of Borneo. Unique among snakes, its coils are virtually the same size as its neck and tail, and its ribs can expand until it becomes flat and ribbon-like, enabling it to float gently and quietly through the air. Once on the ground, it loses its distinction, but its flight is phenomenal. With its motion frozen, its flying position is obvious. Its body is held flat, like a banner in a breeze. Stopped again, it's clear that the snake shapes its underside into a concave plane to support its long, silent glide. As it reaches its destination, it will relax its ribs and become earthbound once again. One of the most often maligned of nature's creatures is this, the flying rodent, the vampire bat. Despite its reputation, the vampire is a social animal. It prefers to cluster with its brethren in tight communal groups on the high roofs of caves, rather than to be left alone outside the warm circle of its chattering companions. As do other bats, vampires are equipped with hook-like claws, which enable them to cling to any crack or crevice. During sleep, they suspend themselves from just one leg, with no apparent concern for falling. As evening falls, true to the schedule of the vampires of fiction, the bats leave their cave to seek out their prey. Domestic animals left in the open provide the vampires with an easily accessible source of food. Yet the bats do not rush their attack. They approach with caution. For the vampires, it'll be an easy meal, and the donkey may not even be aware that it's the main course. Before it eats, however, the bat will sniff out its target and lick its chosen spot. The vampire's saliva, some naturalists say, may even contain a mild anesthetic to make its final incision as painless as possible. For the donkey, it's like a mosquito bite. For the vampire, it's an evening's meal. The vampire will, perhaps, always remain unloved, despite the fact that in nature there are no villains, only survivors.
The echidna from Tasmania has hind feet that point in a most peculiar direction, backwards. Believe it or not.
It was a huge idea. He'd be on time.
What we're doing here at Kensington Gardens Pond in London is feeding the pigeon, the ducks, the geese. Now, there's nothing terribly unusual about that. For me, or for Fifi, or perhaps for you. But there are some people for whom such ordinary acts as this take an extraordinary effort. They're special people, individuals who accomplish remarkable things despite seemingly insurmountable obstacles. The word most of us use to categorize them is handicapped. Perhaps, in some cases, a better word would be miraculous.
San Francisco, California. Familiar territory for Harry Cordellos. A lecturer by profession, he is a runner by choice. For Harry Cordellos, this race of almost 7 miles will be difficult, not because of the distance, but because of the hilly terrain the course will cover.
Where we had last year?
Yep, starting right on him.
All right, first group, huh?
I don't want to stick you, Harry, so watch this.
No, please don't.
Extending from Mill Valley near San Francisco to Stinson Beach, the race is considered by many runners to be second in difficulty only to the Pikes Peak run.
Okay.
Step. Rock. Okay, here you go. Pass from left. Go on, go.
Whoa.
You okay?
Yeah, keep going.
Go, pass from left.
On the right.
Go. Whoa. Drop.
on your left, man.
Pass left.
There it goes.
Go. Down. We got a spiral coming up. Spiral. Rock. Okay, here you go. Pass from left. Go on, go.
Whoa.
You okay?
Yeah, keep going.
Bob's away. Get the hat. Behind. All right, here we go.
To ask what makes Harry run is the same as asking what makes Harry breathe. He is a runner, and that's what runners do. An otherwise undistinguished building in Berkeley, California, is notable for the tenant who lives in apartment 1. Confined to an iron lung for most of every day, Mark O'Brien is almost totally paralyzed by polio. Yet he lives and works alone. He is an aspiring writer. With an electronically operated typewriter, 1 letter at a time, Mark recently completed his first major commercial article. The title, How I Became a Human Being. Mark's journey to self-sufficiency was a long one, and it was made possible as much by his persistence as by this specially designed motorized mobile bed. For 4 years, it carried him to class at the University of California, where he proved that with minimal government support, the severely handicapped can compete and succeed. With nothing but mirrors to guide him, Mark's regular trips became a common sight on the streets of Berkeley. Although unable to remain outside his iron lung for more than a few hours a day, Mark won a degree in English. Berkeley is one of a growing number of schools which recognize the needs and potential of such remarkable people as Mark O'Brien. Wearing the cap and gown brought to him by his friends, Mark was determined to accept his diploma in person. He waited patiently in the wings while the names were called off and the degrees handed out. Then it was Mark's turn. And the occasion inspired him to write a poem.
Today, I hear the crowd's applause. Receive congratulations from my friends. Today, I ask you if I found a place among the rest. I hope you see a man upon this stage who studied, read, wrote, and passed a test.
And another poet, William Shakespeare, wrote, "Oh, what a piece of work is man." In a small town in Missouri, a respect for tradition is as commonplace as a faith in the dignity of man. To the congregation of Lancaster Christian Church, today is a special day. They have come together to honor their fellow member, Robert Melvin. He is a father and grandfather and a friend to them all.
We would welcome all of you to this special memorial program as we pay tribute to our own Robert Melvin.
My relationship with Robert Owen Melvin, better known to us as Bob, did not begin when he was born in 1920. Our ancestors were among the early settlers of Schuyler County. Bob's mother, Hazel, and I were first cousins. There has always been a close family relationship, and this has carried down to the present generations. We salute you, Bob. May you have continued happiness in your hometown where you are respected and admired.
Will you stand, please?
In paying their respects to Robert Melvin, the congregation also honors itself, and perhaps all of us. To the people of Lancaster, Missouri, Bob Melvin is remarkable not for his deformity, but for his kindness. And to his wife, Virginia, he is simply a man.
He was born and raised here in Lancaster, and I was born and raised in Glenwood, which is just 3 miles west. So I grew up with him and knew him all my life, and we just always went the same places, roller skating, and just, you know, just run around in a group for, probably a year and a half or before we got married, and just sort of drifted in together that way with just, you know, running around with a group, skating and dancing, and just, I don't know, it just sort of grew on us.
As far as I know medically, and I've been examined by some of the best doctors in the United States, and as far as I'm concerned, this is God's way of putting me on earth for some reason, I don't know why.
Did you ever feel bitter?
No, I do not. I have never felt that way. I'm not that type of person.
You know, looks is only skin deep, and he's really a terrific person.
To his wife and children, Robert Melvin's burden has vanished as love and respect have grown.
Okay.
At home and at peace, Robert Melvin prompts a simple comment. Beauty is not seen by the eye, but by the heart, where it is nourished not by need, but by love. Sir Francis Campbell scaled the highest peak in the Alps, despite the fact that he was blind. Believe it or not.
You must already...
Despite appearances, this is not a potentate's pleasure palace. It's an orchestrion, a wickedly clever machine that makes nothing but music. What has happened out here near Madison, Wisconsin is just a little bit crazy. When the trees around here were about so high, about 40 years ago, there was nothing here but a big rock and a few small family farms. Then along came Alex Jordan. As a young man, just after World War II, Alex Jordan was an artist in search of a subject. He found it here in the rolling hills of a verdant farmland where, jutting suddenly from the earth, he saw a rock. He became fascinated by it, of what it was and what it could be. These early sketches were the first step in the transformation of his dream into reality. Hand-carrying building materials up the 60-foot rock, shifting plans as he went, Alex Jordan worked alone and took 15 years to complete a house that was to him a work of art. It stands now a monument to his determination and to his continuing dedication to a dream that apparently has no end. On the way to building his dream house, Alex Jordan created an irresistible attraction for local residents. At first, they came out of simple curiosity. Then they came to admire his way with windows and woodwork, to stand in awe at his blend of natural stone and the surprise of an indoor waterfall. Although Jordan designed the house as a haven for himself, he managed to live here, to actually stay overnight, only 4 times. In the end, he was virtually evicted by the growing number of curious visitors. The crowds may have irritated other men, not Alex Jordan. Instead, he gave them even more to see. With the income derived from charging admission, Jordan underwrote the cost of yet another dream, the creation under one roof of a collection of art and artifacts that is perhaps one of the most unusual in the world. He calls a portion of it the streets of yesterday. Jordan is as fascinated with his collections as are his guests, yet he refuses to talk about them, to be interviewed, or to be photographed. He does mingle with the crowds, however, and sometimes identifies himself as a janitor. He may be one of these people, or he may be lurking nearby just to watch them. It occurred to Alex Jordan that an arrangement of instruments in a chamber concert setting with an appropriate Victorian background would be a novel departure in music machines. And as usual, he was right. Gentlemen, if you please. Reflected in the faces of his audience, there shines the ultimate reward for an artist. According to at least one informant, Jordan arranges his displays and collections in the same way a magician conducts a performance, with constant misdirection. There's a reason why you can't see the entire street at once. He wants what happens when you turn that corner to be a surprise. For Alex Jordan, there's no such thing as a simple display. To exhibit a collection of over 600 dolls, he created revolving towers of opulent fantasy. Claimed to be the largest in the world, the collection decorates revolving platforms that are close to 40 feet high, a soaring masterpiece of showmanship that shares the same midway with artifacts of wood and steel that others might call junk. Rebuilt steam engines are displayed not because they work, but because they're big, and most importantly, because Alex Jordan took a fancy to them, as he did when he salvaged these statues from a soon-to-be dismantled church. For him, it seems, everything is art. Of all the wonders of the House on the Rock, you're about to see the grandest. If you were all children, I'd ask you to close your eyes and wait to open them till I say, now. Perhaps there's nothing in the world as exciting and as innocent as going round and round on a journey that goes nowhere. Believe it or not, this is the largest carousel in the world and in history. It's 80 feet in diameter, stands nearly 40 feet tall, weighs 36 tons, and is covered with over 16,000 individual lights. Lions and tigers and bears, oh my, they're all here among the creatures cavorting around this circle. But they're only a small part of the largest collection of carousel figures anywhere on Earth. And they're about as fanciful as the man who collected them. This colossal celebration of childhood's innocence was born in the imagination of Alex Jordan, a man who hides his face, but not his vision. Out of his very private world, one man had made a dream come true and has shared that dream with all of us. And so for House on the Rock, thank you, Mr. Jordan, wherever you are.
The two most often quoted books in the English-speaking world, the Bible and the works of Shakespeare, they have another unsuspected connection. The same author. Numerologists, those people who find subtle shades of meaning in what others may see only as random numbers, point to a rather bizarre series of coincidences. First, the King James Bible was probably completed in England in 1610. Second, in the same year, William Shakespeare was at the height of his powers as a popular playwright. Third, he was 46 years old. And it is that number, 46, that numerologists find so interesting. Supposedly as hidden proof that Shakespeare may have been a secret collaborator in the writing of the King James Bible. They point to this, the 46th Psalm, and they ask you to count to the 46th word from the beginning. The word is shake. Then they ask you to count backwards from the end of the psalm to the 46th word. That word is spear. Shakespeare. Proof or coincidence? It's up to you to believe it or not.
Your weekend of wonder begins tonight with 4 hours of spine-tingling tales. First, Chicago's swinging singles are being drained of their youth on Kolchak the Night Stalker. Then, the horrors of the Salem witch hunts are reignited for the 20th century in Burned at the Stake. An accursed crucifix becomes a weapon of revenge on Friday the 13th, the series. Prepare for the scares. Enter the dimension of darkness beginning at 7 p.m. Eastern. Now, stay tuned for mysteries, magic, and miracles. Sci-Fi Channel next.